The phone vibrated in my jacket pocket during my daughter's piano recital, and I almost ignored it. Almost. But something about the unfamiliar number made my thumb hover over the screen while Emma's tiny fingers danced across the keys, playing Beethoven's Für Elise with the concentration only a 7-year-old can muster. Mr. Patterson, this is Detective Amy Walsh with the Portland Police Bureau. I need to speak with you about your wife's vehicle. There's been an incident. My stomach dropped. Is she okay? Was there an accident? No accident, sir. But we found her car parked at the Riverfront Inn on Hernandez Street. Sorry, on 3rd Avenue. The vehicle's been there for 3 days, according to the hotel staff. We ran the plates for a welfare check. Is your wife missing? 3 days. I looked at the stage where Emma played, completely absorbed in her performance. 3 days ago was Tuesday. Tuesday when Melissa said she had that pharmaceutical conference in Seattle. Tuesday when she kissed me goodbye at 6 a.m., her overnight bag already packed, her smile bright and practiced. No, detective, she's not missing. She's at a work conference in Seattle. The pause on the other end lasted too long. Sir, her car is definitely in Portland, at a hotel. Room 237 is registered under her name and credit card. The management called us because of a noise complaint last night. And when we knocked, well, perhaps we should discuss this in person. Tell me now. My voice came out harder than intended. An elderly couple in front of me turned around with disapproving frowns. Your wife is fine, Mr. Patterson. She's with someone, a male companion. They asked us to leave. But given the circumstances and that the vehicle registration showed a different address, we wanted to verify everything was legitimate. The world tilted sideways. Emma hit a wrong note, stopped, started again from the beginning, the same way she always did when she made a mistake, refusing to continue from the error, insisting on perfection from the start, just like her mother taught her. I see, I managed. Thank you for calling, detective. Sir, are you… I ended the call. My hands were steady. That surprised me. Everything else felt like it was happening to someone else, some other version of David Patterson who was watching his daughter play piano, while his wife of 9 years was in a hotel room across town with another man. Not in Seattle, not at a conference. Here, in Portland, for 3 days. Emma finished her piece. The audience applauded. She stood up, curtsied exactly the way Melissa had practiced with her 100 times, and beamed at me from the stage. I clapped until my palms hurt, the phone burning in my pocket like evidence of a crime I hadn't committed. I didn't confront her, not right away. That's what everyone expects, right? The scorned husband bursting into the hotel room, causing a scene, maybe throwing punches. But I'm an accountant. I deal in numbers, patterns, evidence. And something Detective Walsh said kept echoing in my head. 3 days. The hotel staff noticed the car had been there for 3 days. Melissa came home Friday evening, right on schedule. I was making spaghetti, Emma's favorite, when I heard her key in the lock. My daughter shrieked with joy and launched herself at her mother the moment she walked through the door. Mommy, you missed my recital, but Daddy recorded it on his phone. Oh, sweetheart, I'm so sorry. Melissa hugged Emma tight, her eyes meeting mine over our daughter's head. Seattle traffic was terrible. Tell me everything. Did you remember the part we practiced? She looked tired. Her makeup was fresh, but couldn't quite hide the shadows under her eyes. She wore the gray pantsuit I'd seen her pack Tuesday morning, but something about it seemed wrong, wrinkled in places that didn't make sense if she'd been sitting in conference rooms and business dinners. How was the conference? I asked, stirring the sauce. Exhausting. You know how these things are. Same presentations, different year. She set down her overnight bag, the same black roller she always used, and stretched. I'm going to shower before dinner. I feel like I've been wearing these clothes for days. I watched her walk down the hallway to our bedroom, listened to the water start running. pulled out my phone and opened the banking app I'd been staring at all afternoon. The credit card statement told a story Melissa hadn't. No charges in Seattle. Nothing at the Marriott where the pharmaceutical conference was supposedly held. I'd checked their website, found the event, even called to confirm it was happening. It was. Melissa just wasn't there. Instead, 3 charges at the Riverfront Inn. Room service on Tuesday night. Wednesday afternoon. Thursday morning. Another charge at a restaurant 2 blocks away. Bellini's Italian Bistro. Wednesday evening. Dinner for 2, based on the amount. Then something that made my throat tight. A charge at Tiffany & Co. in Pioneer Place Mall. Thursday afternoon. $473. I walked to her purse, still sitting by the door where she'd dropped it. My hands moved with a calm I didn't feel, unzipping the inner pocket where she kept her jewelry when traveling. Nothing. The outer pocket. Nothing. Emma was in the living room, watching cartoons. The shower was still running. I picked up Melissa's overnight bag and set it on the kitchen table. The clothes inside were rumpled, worn. But underneath them, wrapped in tissue paper, I found a small blue box. Tiffany blue. My fingers felt numb as I opened it. Inside was a man's watch. Silver and black. Expensive. Engraved on the back. To my forever. M. The shower shut off. I had maybe 5 minutes before she came back to the kitchen. 5 minutes to decide what kind of man I was going to be. The kind who exploded, who demanded answers, who let emotion drive the moment. Or the kind who planned, who documented, who built a case so airtight there would be no wiggle room for lies. I took a photo of the watch with my phone, put it back exactly as I'd found it, zipped the bag closed, moved it back to where she'd left it by the door. Then I went back to stirring the spaghetti sauce, and I waited. The weekend passed in careful choreography. Saturday morning, Melissa slept until 10. Exhaustion, she said, from the conference and travel. I made pancakes for Emma, let her practice piano while I sat at my laptop in the kitchen, ostensibly reviewing quarterly reports for a client. Actually, I was documenting everything in a password-protected file. Dates, times, charges, screenshots of the credit card statements, photos of the Tiffany box and watch. Emma's Chopin waltz drifted from the living room, the same passage repeated until perfect. Her daughter's voice, I thought. Melissa's perfectionism lived in Emma, too. That realization settled somewhere dark in my chest. Melissa emerged around 10:30, showered and dressed in yoga pants and one of my old college sweatshirts. She kissed Emma's head, poured coffee, asked about my morning with the easy warmth of 9 years together. I matched her tone, mentioned the client review, asked if she wanted to go to the farmer's market later. "That sounds perfect," she said, and her smile looked genuine. We went. We bought heirloom tomatoes and fresh bread and locally made goat cheese. Emma picked out flowers for the kitchen table, yellow dahlias, bright and cheerful. Melissa held my hand while we walked, her thumb tracing circles on my palm like she'd done since we were dating. I wondered if she'd held his hand that way too. If she'd traced circles on his skin while they lay in room 237 at the Riverfront Inn. Sunday, we took Emma to the zoo. Melissa took photos of our daughter feeding the giraffes, laughing at the sea otters, delighted by everything. She posted 2 of them to Instagram. Emma with the giraffe, and one of the 3 of us that another parent had offered to take. The caption read, "Family Day at the Zoo. These are my favorite people in the whole world." I didn't check to see who liked it. Didn't want to know if he was watching too. Monday morning, Melissa left for work at 7:30, kissing me goodbye at the door. "Budget meeting today," she said. "Might be late." "How late?" "Probably 7 or 8. I'll text you." I nodded. Waited until her car disappeared down the street. Then I called my office and told them I'd be working from home. client documentation requiring privacy and focus. My assistant didn't question it. I'd worked from home before. At 8 o'clock, I called a number I hadn't used in years. It rang 4 times before he answered. "David Patterson," Brian Kelly said, surprise evident in his voice. "Haven't heard from you since the wedding. What's it been? 9 years?" About that. Brian and I had gone to college together, stayed close through our 20s. He'd been a groomsman at my wedding. Then life happened. He moved to Seattle for work. I stayed in Portland. We exchanged Christmas cards, occasional texts, the kind of friendship that existed in theory more than practice. "How's Melissa?" "Emma must be, 7 now?" "Emma's great. Melissa's—" I paused, choosing words carefully. "That's actually why I'm calling. I need a favor, a professional favor." Brian worked in corporate security now. Background checks, fraud investigation, that sort of thing. He'd mentioned it during our last phone call, maybe 2 years ago. "What kind of favor?" I told him. Not everything. Not the Tiffany watch or the detective's call or the way I'd played happy family all weekend while rage burned quiet and cold in my chest. Just the basics. Suspected infidelity, need for documentation, someone who could follow Melissa discreetly and confirm what I already knew. "Jesus, David, I'm sorry." "Don't be sorry. Can you help?" He was quiet for a moment. "I'm in Seattle, but I have a guy in Portland who does this kind of work. Former investigator, completely professional. He can start today if you need." "I need." "Okay, I'll have him call you within the hour. His name's Jack Brennan." "David." He paused. "Are you sure about this?" "Once you have proof, you can't unknow it." I thought about the watch in Melissa's suitcase, the 3 days at the Riverfront Inn, her hand in mine at the farmer's market, warm and familiar and false. "I already know," I said. "I just need evidence." Jack Brennan called 40 minutes later. His voice was neutral, professional, the tone of someone who'd had this conversation many times before. We arranged to meet at a coffee shop on Hernandez, 2 blocks from my house, in an hour. He looked exactly like someone who'd spent 20 years in law enforcement. Mid-50s, gray hair cut short, weathered face, eyes that noticed everything. We shook hands. He ordered black coffee. I got nothing. "Brian filled me in on the basics," he said, pulling out a small notebook. "Your wife, suspected affair, need for documentation. Tell me the rest." I told him about the detective's call, the Riverfront Inn, the credit card charges, the Tiffany watch. He took notes, asked clarifying questions, didn't react beyond professional acknowledgement. "Do you know who she's seeing?" "No." The detective said male companion, but no name. "Work colleague?" "Probably. She's in pharmaceutical sales. Travels occasionally for conferences, client meetings. This was supposed to be Seattle. But she was here in Portland the whole time." "Yes." He nodded, made another note. "What exactly do you need from me?" "Confirmation. Photos if possible. I need to know who he is, where they meet, how often. I paused, surprised by the steadiness of my own voice. "I need everything documented so thoroughly that she can't deny it." "Planning to divorce?" "Yes." "Kids?" "One daughter, 7 years old." Something shifted in his expression, brief and quickly controlled. "Custody will be a factor then. Oregon's a no-fault state, so infidelity won't affect the divorce itself, but it can influence custody decisions if you can demonstrate it's affected her parenting or judgment." I thought about Melissa kissing Emma goodnight, helping with homework, attending every piano recital. Whatever else she'd done, she'd been a good mother. I wouldn't use Emma as a weapon, wouldn't make our daughter collateral damage. "I just want documentation," I said, "for myself and for the attorneys." "Understood." He closed the notebook. "My rate is $200 an hour plus expenses, mileage, meals if surveillance runs long. Any equipment rentals? I'll provide detailed reports, photos, video when possible. Everything admissible if it comes to that. I'll need a retainer of $2,000 to start. I'd expected as much. Had already transferred money from our savings account to my personal checking. That's fine. I'll need her work address, vehicle description, license plate, photo if you have one. I pulled out my phone, found a recent picture of Melissa, the one from the zoo actually, cropped to show just her face. Smiling, happy, beautiful. I texted it to the number he provided, then gave him the rest. Her office location in the Pearl District, her car make and model, the license plate I'd memorized years ago. She said she might be late tonight, I added. Budget meeting. Could mean 7 or 8. Could mean meeting him. He stood, pocketed the notebook. I'll be in position by 4:30, before her typical end of day. You'll get a preliminary report tonight, full documentation within 48 hours of when I have something concrete. We shook hands again. He left first. I sat there for another 10 minutes, staring at the untouched coffee in front of me, thinking about the man who would now follow my wife, document her betrayal, turn suspicion into proof. Then I went home, made lunch, responded to work emails, picked Emma up from school at 3 and listened to her talk about the solar system project in science class, how she wanted to make Saturn with real rings. Could we go to the craft store for supplies? Of course, I said. This weekend. My phone buzzed at 6:47 p.m. Unknown number, but I knew who it was. Subject departed office 6:15 p.m. with male colleague, mid-30s, athletic build. Proceeded to Westside Wine Bar on 23rd. Currently at corner table, second round of drinks. Will continue surveillance and document. JB. I read it twice, deleted it. Looked up at Emma, who was setting the table for dinner, carefully placing forks and knives exactly parallel to the plate edges. Is Mom coming home for dinner? She asked. She said she'd be late, remember? Budget meeting. Oh yeah. Emma nodded, accepting this without question because why wouldn't she? We were her parents. We told the truth. I served the pasta I'd made, ate mechanically while Emma talked about Saturn's rings and whether we should use wire or cardboard. My phone stayed silent until 9:23 p.m., after Emma was in bed. Subject and male companion departed wine bar 8:40 p.m., proceeded to Heathman Hotel, entered together. Male checked in, room 412. Subject accompanied him upstairs. Photos attached. Male identified via lobby interaction. Trevor Grayson, pharmaceutical rep, same company. Will maintain surveillance. JB. 3 photos loaded. Melissa and a man I'd never seen before walking into the Heathman. The same man at the check-in desk, Melissa standing close beside him. Both of them entering an elevator, his hand on her lower back. I sat in the dark living room, phone screen glowing, and looked at my wife with another man's hand on her body. Trevor Grayson. Now he had a name. The photographs arrived in my email at 2:47 p.m. on Monday, while I was reviewing quarterly tax projections for a client. Jack Brennan's message contained no commentary, just a timestamp and location data. Heathman Hotel, Hernandez Street, 12:18 p.m. I opened the attachments one by one. Melissa and Trevor entering the lobby. Melissa and Trevor at the elevator. A zoomed shot of Trevor's hand on the small of her back, his fingers spread possessively across the fabric of her navy suit, the same suit she'd worn to lunch with a potential client that very day. I forwarded the images to a private folder I'd created, labeled Tax Documents 2019. Then I returned to the spreadsheet in front of me, though the numbers no longer assembled themselves into meaningful patterns. My phone buzzed 20 minutes later. Jack's name appeared on the screen. They were up there 90 minutes, he said, without preamble. Left separately. She went back to her office. He grabbed coffee at the place across the street, then returned to the same building. They work in the same office. Different floors, She's on 12. He's on 8. Sales and marketing, respectively. I wrote this down on a post-it note, adding it to the collection accumulating in my desk drawer. How long have you been following them? Since Friday. This is the third time. They're not particularly careful. He paused. You want me to keep going? Yes. How long? I considered this. Through the end of the week. You're building a case. I'm being thorough. Right. Another pause. For what it's worth, Patterson, I've seen a lot of these situations. The ones who wait, who document everything, they usually come out better on the other side. I'll keep that in mind. After we hung up, I sat staring at the post-it note. 3 times in 4 days. The Riverfront Inn, the Heathman Hotel, and one other location Jack had mentioned, a boutique hotel in the Pearl District I'd never heard of. Different venues, same pattern. They were rotating locations, probably thinking it made them less conspicuous. It didn't. That evening, Melissa came home at her usual time, 6:30. I was in the kitchen, preparing chicken and vegetables for dinner. Emma sat at the table working on math homework, her tongue poking out slightly as she concentrated on long division. Something smells good, Melissa said, setting her bag on the counter. She kissed the top of Emma's head, then crossed to where I stood at the stove. Her lips brushed my cheek. How was your day? Productive. Closed out the Whitmore account. That's great, honey. She opened the refrigerator, retrieved a bottle of white wine. Emma, how was school? Our daughter launched into a detailed account of a playground dispute involving jump rope rules and hurt feelings. Melissa poured wine into a glass, leaning against the counter as she listened. She'd changed clothes since the Heathman. Now she wore jeans and a cream-colored sweater. Her hair was down, still slightly damp at the ends. She'd showered before coming home. I plated the chicken, my movements automatic. David, you okay? I looked up. Melissa was watching me with a small crease between her eyebrows. Fine, just thinking about work. The Whitmore thing? Different client, nothing urgent. She accepted this, turning her attention back to Emma. I served dinner, and we ate together like we had 1,000 times before. Emma talked about her upcoming piano recital piece, a new one, more challenging than the last. Melissa asked questions, offered encouragement. I made appropriate comments at appropriate intervals. Underneath the table, my phone rested in my pocket. The photographs were there, backed up in 3 separate locations. Evidence accumulating like interest, compounding daily. After dinner, I helped Emma with the remainder of her homework while Melissa loaded the dishwasher. Then Emma's bedtime routine. Bath, pajamas, story. I read to her from the book we'd been working through. Something about a girl who discovers a magical library. Emma's eyes grew heavy halfway through the chapter. Dad, she murmured as I closed the book. Yeah, sweetheart? Are you and Mom okay? My hand stilled on the edge of the blanket. What makes you ask that? I don't know. You seem quiet. Just tired from work. Everything's fine. She studied my face with the unsettling perceptiveness children sometimes possess, then nodded. Okay. Love you. Love you too. I found Melissa in our bedroom, already changed into pajamas, scrolling through her phone. She looked up when I entered. Emma down? Just put her to bed. Good. She set the phone aside. I have an early meeting tomorrow. Regional managers flying in from Seattle. What time? 7:30. I'll need to leave by 6:45. I nodded, moving to the closet to change. Will you be home for dinner? Should be, unless the meeting runs long. She paused. Actually, there might be a dinner component. Let me check the calendar. She picked up her phone again, tapping through screens. I watched her reflection in the closet mirror. Her face was relaxed, casual. No tells, no nervous gestures. Either she was remarkably composed, or she'd compartmentalize so completely that lying had become effortless. "Yeah, there's a dinner," she said. "Probably won't be home until 9 or so. Can you handle Emma?" "Of course. You're the best." She smiled at me, warm and familiar. "Come to bed. You look exhausted." I finished changing and slid under the covers beside her. She curled against me, her head on my shoulder, one arm draped across my chest. Her breathing slowed and deepened within minutes. I stared at the ceiling, calculating. Tomorrow she'd leave early for a meeting that may or may not exist. If the pattern held, she'd see Trevor at some point during the day. Maybe lunch, maybe another hotel visit. Jack would document it. The evidence would accumulate. But I needed more than photographs and timestamps. I needed to understand the scope. How long had this been going on? Was it just Trevor, or had there been others? What had she told him about me, about Emma, about our marriage? I needed access to her communications. Melissa's phone sat on her nightstand, charging. She used the same passcode she'd had for years, Emma's birthday. I'd seen her enter it countless times. But taking the phone while she slept was risky. She was a light sleeper, and the absence of the device might wake her. There were other options. Our cell phone account was in my name. As the primary account holder, I could request detailed records, call logs, text message metadata, data usage. It wouldn't show me the content of her messages, but it would show me patterns, frequency, duration, numbers she contacted most often. I could also access our cloud storage. Melissa backed up her phone automatically. If I knew where to look, I might find deleted messages, photos she thought were gone. Beside me, Melissa shifted in her sleep, murmuring something unintelligible. Her arm tightened briefly around me, then relaxed. I extracted myself carefully, sliding out from under her embrace. She rolled onto her other side, still sleeping. I retrieved my laptop from the home office and settled on the couch in the living room, the screen's glow the only light in the darkness. First, the phone records. I logged into our carrier's website and navigated to the account management section. Detailed billing was available for the past 6 months. I downloaded the files, then opened the most recent month. The spreadsheet contained thousands of entries. I sorted by Melissa's number, then by frequency of contact. One number appeared again and again, sometimes 5, 6 times a day. Calls ranging from 2 minutes to 47 minutes. Text messages in clusters, 20, 30 at a time. I cross-referenced the number against our contacts. Nothing. It wasn't saved in our shared family account. I pulled up a reverse phone lookup service and entered the digits. Trevor Grayson, Portland, Oregon. The calls had started 4 months ago. Sporadic at first, once or twice a week, then increasing in frequency. By last month, they were talking daily. Multiple times daily. 4 months. I sat back against the couch cushions, the laptop warm against my thighs. 4 months of phone calls. 4 months of text messages. How many hotel rooms? How many lies about late meetings and client dinners and work conferences? The cloud backup was next. I accessed Melissa's account using the family sharing credentials. Her photo stream appeared first, hundreds of images. I scrolled through them methodically. Emma at her piano recital, Emma at the park, Melissa and her coworkers at some corporate event. A selfie of Melissa in our bathroom, testing a new lipstick shade. Then, buried in a folder labeled Work Misc, I found them. The folder contained 63 files. I counted them twice, the way I'd count columns in a spreadsheet that didn't balance. 38 photos, 25 videos. I sat in my car outside Emma's school, engine running, heat blasting against the January cold. I'd told Melissa I had a client meeting. She'd smiled and kissed my cheek before heading to her own office. where presumably she'd spend the afternoon texting Trevor between sales calls. The first photo showed them at a restaurant I didn't recognize. Melissa wore the blue dress she'd claimed to have spilled wine on at a work dinner. No wine stains visible. Trevor's hand rested on her thigh under the table, captured by what appeared to be a selfie taken from Melissa's perspective. I scrolled. A hotel room. Different from the ones Jack had documented. This one had floral wallpaper and a brass headboard. Melissa in Trevor's shirt, laughing at something off camera. Trevor asleep, Melissa's hand on his chest, her wedding ring clearly visible. The dates in the metadata went back 8 months. Not 4. 8. My phone showed 2:47 p.m. Emma's dismissal was at 3:15. I had 28 minutes to look at evidence that my marriage had been a performance since last May. Since before our trip to Cannon Beach, where Melissa had suggested we try for another baby. Since before Emma's 7th birthday party, where Melissa had made a speech about family being everything. The videos were worse. Not because of what they showed, mostly the two of them in various hotel rooms, talking, laughing, doing things I didn't need to catalog, but because of how Melissa looked in them. Unguarded, present. The way she used to look at me during our first year together, before the mortgage and the promotion and the careful scheduling of our lives. In one video, dated 6 weeks ago, Trevor asked her something I couldn't quite hear. Melissa's response came through clearly. He doesn't know me anymore. I'm not sure he ever did. I closed the file. Opened my banking app instead. Our joint account showed the usual transactions: grocery store, gas station, Emma's piano tuition, everything normal, everything accounted for, everything a lie. The separate credit card statement Jack had obtained told a different story. The Riverfront Inn appeared 3 times. So did the Benson Hotel downtown, the Heathman, a boutique place in the Pearl District I'd never heard of. The Tiffany purchase. Dinner at Bellini's on a Tuesday I'd worked late. Flowers from a shop on Hawthorne, flowers I'd never seen. I'd been married to a stranger for 8 months. Maybe longer. At 3:12 I drove to the school pickup line. Emma emerged at 3:17, backpack bouncing, her friend Sophie beside her chattering about something that made Emma laugh. She climbed into the back seat, still giggling. Dad, can Sophie come over? Her mom said it's okay if you say yes. Sophie's mother stood near the curb, phone in hand, waiting for confirmation. A normal Friday afternoon, a normal request. Not today, sweetie. Maybe this weekend. Emma's face fell. You always say this weekend. I know. I'm sorry. I caught Sophie's mother's eye and shook my head apologetically. She nodded, understanding, and waved Sophie over. Emma buckled her seatbelt with aggressive clicks. Mom would have said yes. Probably true. Melissa excelled at being the fun parent, the one who said yes to sleepovers and ice cream before dinner. Easy to be generous when you were spending your actual emotional energy elsewhere. How was school? Fine. The word carried the weight of 7-year-old disappointment. We drove home in silence. Melissa's car sat in the driveway. She'd texted at 2:30 saying she was working from home the rest of the day. I found her in the kitchen, laptop open, phone face down beside it. Hey, she looked up, smiled. How was the meeting? Productive. I set my briefcase on the counter. Lots of documentation to review. Sounds thrilling. She returned to her screen. I'm just finishing up some reports. There's leftover lasagna if you're hungry. Emma trudged upstairs without greeting her mother. Melissa didn't notice, absorbed in whatever was on her screen. Or pretending to be absorbed while actually texting Trevor. The phone lit up briefly, vibrating against the granite. Popular afternoon, I observed. Just work stuff. She flipped the phone over without checking it. Hey, I meant to ask. My company's having a thing next Friday. Annual celebration, open bar, the whole deal. Spouses are invited. Would you want to come? I studied her face. She looked genuinely hopeful, like she actually wanted me there. Like she hadn't spent the last 8 months building a separate life with a man who would presumably also be at this celebration. What kind of thing? Cocktail party at that new place downtown. The one with the rooftop bar. They're announcing promotions, doing awards, you know how it is. She closed her laptop. I know it's not really your scene, but it would mean a lot if you came. Show the team I have a supportive husband. The irony sat between us, invisible to her, crushing to me. I'll check my calendar. Thanks, babe. She stood, kissed my cheek, the same spot she'd kissed this morning. I need to run to the store. We're out of milk. Need anything? We're fine. She grabbed her purse and keys. The phone went with her, naturally. Couldn't risk leaving it where I might see Trevor's messages. Not that it mattered anymore. I had 8 months of evidence in a cloud folder she'd forgotten to secure properly. After her car pulled away, I opened my own laptop. Jack Brennan had sent his preliminary report that morning. 16 pages, single-spaced, with photo documentation. Meeting times, locations, duration. A pattern of Tuesday and Thursday afternoons, plus occasional Friday evenings when Melissa claimed late meetings. The report included something I hadn't requested. Background on Trevor Grayson. 34, divorced 2 years ago, no children. Decent credit score. Rented a condo in the Pearl District, the same neighborhood as that boutique hotel. Before the pharmaceutical job, he'd worked in medical device sales in Phoenix. Clean record except for a speeding ticket last year. Ordinary. Unremarkable. The kind of man who could destroy a marriage without being particularly special. Jack's email included a final note. Additional surveillance available if needed. However, documentation appears sufficient for legal proceedings. Recommend consultation with family law attorney before subject becomes aware of investigation. I forwarded the email to my personal account. Then I searched for family law attorneys in Portland. The first 3 websites featured smiling lawyers promising aggressive representation and protecting what's yours. The language of warfare applied to the dissolution of promises made 9 years ago in front of everyone we knew. I selected the 4th result instead. Kimberly Frost, partner at a downtown firm whose website emphasized mediation and minimizing impact on children. Her calendar showed an opening Monday at 9. I booked it. Upstairs, Emma practiced piano. Chopin, the same piece she'd performed at the recital a week ago. She still stumbled over the same measure, stopped, started again from the beginning. Refusing to continue from the error, insisting on perfection from the start. My daughter. Who deserved better than watching her parents' marriage implode? Who deserved stability and honesty, and parents who could be in the same room without performing? Melissa returned with milk and a bag from the bakery. Got Emma's favorite cookies. Thought we could have a movie night. She's practicing. I'll ask when she's done. Melissa unpacked the groceries, humming something I didn't recognize. Happy, relaxed. A woman without secrets if you didn't know where to look. I knew where to look now. My phone buzzed. Jack Brennan. Subjects meeting at Heathman, 7 p.m. tonight. Confirming surveillance? I typed back, no, have what I need. His response came immediately. Understood. Final invoice Monday. Good luck. Upstairs, Emma had stopped playing. I heard Melissa's voice, bright and encouraging, suggesting cookies and a movie. Emma's reluctant agreement. The sounds of normal family life, the kind that would shatter completely within the week. I had until Monday to decide exactly how. The weekend stretched before me like a minefield. Saturday morning, I sat at the kitchen table with Emma, while she practiced her multiplication tables, Melissa upstairs getting ready for what she said was a quick trip to the office. Through the ceiling, I could hear her footsteps moving between the bedroom and bathroom. "Dad, you're not listening." Emma's voice pulled me back. 7 times 8 is 56, I said automatically. She beamed. "You were listening." Melissa came downstairs in jeans and a casual sweater, her hair pulled back in a ponytail. Weekend Melissa. The version of her that made pancakes and suggested family bike rides. She kissed the top of Emma's head, then mine. "I'll be back by noon," she said. "We can go to that new brunch place you wanted to try." I nodded, watching her grab her purse and keys. The same purse that had held the Tiffany box. The same keys attached to the fob for the car that had sat in the Riverfront Inn parking lot for 3 days. "Sounds good," I said. Emma returned to her workbook. I pulled out my phone and opened the tracking app I'd installed on our family plan 2 days ago. A feature Melissa had agreed to years back. Something about safety and finding each other in emergencies. She'd forgotten about it. I hadn't. The blue dot that represented her phone moved west on Burnside, then south. Not toward her office. I watched it navigate through downtown, then stop at an address I recognized from Jack's report. Trevor Grayson's apartment building on 5th Avenue. I set the phone face down on the table. "Can we get hot chocolate at brunch?" Emma asked. "Whatever you want, sweetheart." The blue dot stayed stationary for an hour and 43 minutes. When it finally moved, heading back east, I put my phone away and started cleaning up Emma's colored pencils. Melissa walked through the door at 12:07, apologizing for running late. "The office was a disaster," she said. "End-of-quarter reports are killing everyone." We went to brunch. We ordered hot chocolate. Melissa laughed at something Emma said about her friend's birthday party. I cut my omelet into precise squares and ate them methodically, maintaining the performance. Sunday, Melissa suggested a movie. Something animated that Emma had been begging to see. We sat in the darkened theater, Emma between us, and I watched Melissa reach across our daughter to squeeze my hand during a particularly emotional scene. Her palm was warm, her grip familiar. 9 years of hand-holding, condensed into that single moment of contact. I squeezed back. That night, after Emma was asleep, Melissa came to bed wearing the silk nightgown I'd bought her last anniversary. She moved close, her hand sliding across my chest. "We haven't had much time together lately," she said softly. My body responded even as my mind cataloged the calculation behind her touch. Tuesday and Thursday were her regular days with Trevor. This was Sunday. She could afford to be generous with me on Sunday. "I'm exhausted," I said. "Long week." She kissed my shoulder. "Rain check?" "Of course." She settled against her pillow, and within minutes, her breathing had evened into sleep. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, thinking about the attorney appointment tomorrow morning. Brian had gotten me in with someone named Robert Paulson, a divorce specialist his firm used for referrals. 9 o'clock, downtown office, bring all documentation. I'd taken a personal day, told Melissa I had a dentist appointment. Paulson's office occupied the 14th floor of a steel and glass building on Broadway. The receptionist offered coffee, which I declined, then led me to a conference room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Paulson arrived 3 minutes later, a man in his mid-50s with silver hair and wire-rimmed glasses. "Brian speaks highly of you," he said, shaking my hand. "I understand you have a difficult situation." I'd brought everything. Printed copies of the credit card statements, highlighted and annotated. The phone records in a bound folder. Jack's surveillance photos in a manila envelope. Screenshots of the cloud folder file list. I hadn't opened the actual files, couldn't bring myself to, but the metadata was damning enough. Hotel receipts. The police report from the Riverfront Inn incident. Paulson reviewed it all in silence, occasionally making notes on a legal pad. The only sound was the scratch of his pen and the distant hum of traffic 14 floors below. Finally, He looked up. How long have you known? Since Friday. The police call came during my daughter's piano recital. But you haven't confronted your wife. No. He nodded slowly. Oregon is a no-fault divorce state, which means this evidence won't affect the actual dissolution of marriage. However, it becomes relevant in several other areas. You mentioned your daughter is 7? Yes. Custody arrangements will be the court's primary concern. The affair itself won't typically impact custody unless you can demonstrate it directly affects her ability to parent. However, he tapped the police report. This incident could be relevant. She was unreachable for 3 days while supposedly on a business trip. That speaks to judgment and reliability. I'd already thought through this angle. She told our daughter she was in Seattle for work. I have the text where she said she'd call each night. She called twice, both times claiming to be at the conference hotel. Document every instance of deception involving your daughter. Paulson made another note. Now, regarding assets. Do you own your home jointly? Yes. We bought it 6 years ago. Current market value around $680,000. Mortgage balance approximately $340,000. Other significant assets? Retirement accounts. Mine is worth about $190,000. Hers around $85,000. Joint savings of $43,000. 2 cars, both paid off. Her car is newer, worth maybe $32,000. Mine is worth $18,000, Paulson calculated silently. Oregon is an equitable distribution state, not necessarily equal. The court aims for fairness based on various factors including length of marriage, earning capacity, and contributions to marital assets. You've been married 9 years? Yes. Children complicate things. The custodial parent often retains the family home to maintain stability for the child. However, given your documentation of her deception and the fact that you're the more stable presence, he paused. What's your income versus hers? I make $94,000 annually. She makes $78,000 base, plus commission. Last year, her total was around $95,000. Roughly equivalent earning capacity. That helps. Neither of you would likely pay significant spousal support. He leaned back in his chair. Here's what I recommend. We file for dissolution citing irreconcilable differences. We request primary custody based on your role as primary caregiver. I assume you handle most of Emma's daily care? I thought about the piano lessons I scheduled, the parent-teacher conferences I attended, the doctor's appointments I coordinated. Yes. We'll request the family home as part of your share of marital assets, offsetting with her retirement accounts and other property. We document every instance where her affair interfered with parenting responsibilities, and we move quickly before she has time to establish her own narrative. How quickly? I can have papers ready by Wednesday. We serve her Thursday or Friday. The element of surprise works in your favor. She won't have time to move assets or establish alternative housing arrangements before the initial hearing. I looked at the city spread out below us. Somewhere out there, Melissa was probably at her actual office or maybe meeting Trevor for lunch. Tuesday was one of their regular days. There's a company party Friday night, I said. She invited me. Trevor Grayson will be there, the colleague she's been seeing. Paulson's expression didn't change. Would you prefer to serve her before or after this party? I considered the question. Serving her before would mean she'd face her colleagues knowing the divorce was in motion. Serving her after meant one more performance, one more evening of pretending. After, I said, I want to see them together. I want to know exactly what I'm dealing with. That's your choice. But David, may I call you David? He waited for my nod. Once you serve papers, things will move fast. She'll hire her own attorney. There will be depositions, discovery, potentially mediation. Your daughter will be affected by all of this. Are you prepared for that? Emma's face flashed through my mind. Her concentration at the piano, her delight over hot chocolate, her trust that her parents would always be there. I'm prepared to protect her from a mother who lies to her, I said, who abandons her for 3 days and pretends it was work. Who's teaching her that deception is acceptable? Paulson made a final note. Then we proceed. I'll draft the petition today. You'll need to review and sign by Wednesday morning. We'll arrange service for Friday evening or Saturday morning, depending on what works best. We shook hands. I gathered my documentation back into its folders and envelopes, everything organized and labeled. Evidence of 4 months of phone calls, 8 months of files in a cloud folder, 9 years of marriage. The elevator descended in silence. I walked out into Monday afternoon sunshine, my phone already showing a text from Melissa. Don't forget Emma has piano at 4. Can you take her? Meeting running long. I replied, got it. See you tonight. Another Tuesday meeting with Trevor, disguised as work. Another lie, cataloged and filed away. I had 4 days until the party. 4 days to maintain the performance. 4 days to prepare for everything that would come after. I drove to pick up Emma from school, her backpack bouncing as she climbed into the car, chattering about her day. In the rearview mirror, I watched her animated face and made a promise to myself. Whatever happened next, whatever Melissa's choices cost us, Emma would know that at least one parent had chosen truth. Even if that truth was going to shatter everything she knew. The company party was at the Sentinel, a downtown hotel with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Willamette River. I arrived 30 minutes after Melissa left the house, parking in the adjacent garage where I had a clear view of the entrance. She'd spent 2 hours getting ready. Hair professionally styled that morning, makeup applied with the kind of precision she usually reserved for important client presentations. The black cocktail dress I'd never seen before. When she'd kissed Emma goodbye, our daughter had told her she looked like a princess. Daddy's going to handle bedtime tonight, Melissa had said, checking her reflection one final time in the hallway mirror. I probably won't be too late. I'd watched her drive away, then waited exactly 10 minutes before following. Now I sat in my car, engine off, watching the hotel entrance. Jack Brennan had texted me 20 minutes ago. Subject arrived 6:47 p.m. Target arrived 6:52 p.m. Both currently in Grand Ballroom, 3rd floor. My phone buzzed again. A photo from Jack. Melissa and Trevor standing near the bar, his hand resting on the small of her back. She was laughing at something he'd said, her head tilted back in a way I recognized. The same laugh she'd given me 9 years ago at Brian's wedding reception, when I'd made some stupid joke about the chicken being dry. I forwarded the photo to Robert Paulson without comment. The envelope sat on my passenger seat. Divorce papers, signed and notarized. Robert's paralegal would be waiting in the lobby at 9 o'clock to serve them. I'd debated doing it myself, but Robert had been firm. Let's keep this professional. You don't want to give her any ammunition about erratic behavior or emotional instability. So I'd agreed to wait, to observe, to let the professionals handle the mechanics while I documented one final piece of evidence. I got out of the car and walked toward the hotel. The Grand Ballroom was exactly what I'd expected. Corporate elegance with minimal personality. Round tables draped in white linens, centerpieces of flowers that probably cost more than our monthly grocery budget. A banner reading, Cascade Pharmaceuticals, Excellence in Innovation, stretched across the back wall. I'd worn a suit. Not my best one, but good enough to blend in. Jack had arranged for my name to be added to the guest list through a contact in the company's event planning department. As far as anyone knew, I was David Patterson, +1 for Melissa Patterson, arriving fashionably late. The woman at the registration desk barely glanced at me before handing over a name tag and gesturing toward the ballroom entrance. I spotted Melissa immediately. She stood in a cluster of colleagues near the windows, wine glass in hand, animated and engaged. Trevor was 3 feet away, talking to an older man in an expensive suit. They weren't touching, weren't even looking at each other. but I could see the invisible thread connecting them. The way she shifted her weight when he laughed. The way his eyes tracked her movement when she turned to refill her glass. Jack was positioned near the bar, nursing what looked like a club soda. He caught my eye briefly, then looked away. Professional distance. I took a glass of wine from a passing server and positioned myself near a column with a clear sightline. Several people glanced at me curiously, the unfamiliar face at a company event. But no one approached. Corporate gatherings like this were large enough that strangers could blend in, at least for a while. Melissa hadn't seen me yet. She was introducing someone to her group, shaking hands, making the kind of small talk that came naturally to her. Sales rep skills. She'd always been good at reading a room, adjusting her personality to match the audience. I wondered which version of herself she showed Trevor. Whether it was the real one or just another performance. My phone buzzed. Emma's babysitter. All good here. She's brushing her teeth now. Lights out by 8:30. I typed back, "Thanks, Jenna. I'll be home by 10. Across the room, Trevor had moved closer to Melissa. They were part of the same conversation group now, professional and appropriate. But I saw him touch her elbow briefly when someone made a joke. A casual gesture that could mean nothing, or everything. She laughed again. That same laugh. "David?" I turned. A woman in her 40s stood beside me, holding a wine glass and looking confused. It took me a moment to place her. Karen something, Melissa's colleague from a company picnic 2 summers ago. "Karen," I said, forcing a smile. "Good to see you." "I didn't know you were coming tonight." She glanced toward Melissa, then back at me. "Does Melissa know you're here?" "Wanted to surprise her," I said. The lie came easily. "She's been working so hard lately. Thought I'd show my support." Karen's expression shifted slightly. Something uncertain in her eyes. "That's sweet of you." "You know how it is," I said. "These pharmaceutical events can run long. Figured I'd at least make an appearance." She nodded slowly, still watching me with that odd expression. "Well, I'm sure she'll be happy to see you." She excused herself quickly, moving toward the restroom. I watched her go, noting the way she pulled out her phone as soon as she was out of the ballroom. 30 seconds later, Melissa's phone buzzed. She pulled it from her clutch, read the screen, and went completely still. Her eyes scanned the room. Methodical. Searching. When she found me, her face went through 3 distinct expressions in rapid succession. Shock, fear, and then a carefully constructed smile. She said something to her group and started walking toward me. Trevor watched her go, his forehead creasing slightly. "David." She reached me, still smiling that practiced smile. "What are you doing here?" "Thought I'd surprise you," I said, echoing the lie I'd told Karen. "You've been working so hard on this event. Wanted to see it." "That's..." She touched my arm, the gesture automatic. "That's really thoughtful, but you didn't have to. I know Emma's bedtime routine is..." "Jenna's handling it," I said. "She's great with her." Melissa's smile tightened. "You should have told me you were coming. I could have introduced you around earlier." "I'm fine," I said. "Don't let me interrupt. You should get back to your colleagues." She glanced over her shoulder. Trevor was watching us now, his expression carefully neutral. "Actually, maybe we could..." "Melissa." A loud voice cut through the ambient noise. A man in his 60s, silver hair and an expensive watch, approached with his arms spread wide. "There's my star performer. Regional sales are up 18% this quarter, and I'm hearing it's largely due to your team's efforts." "Mr. Whitmore," Melissa said, her professional persona snapping back into place. "Thank you so much. I couldn't have done it without..." "Nonsense," Whitmore said, then noticed me. "And who's this?" "My husband," Melissa said. "David Patterson." "David, This is Gerald Whitmore, our regional VP. We shook hands. Whitmore had the grip of someone who'd read too many books about power dynamics and body language. Pleasure, he said. Your wife is one of our most valuable assets. We're lucky to have her. I'm aware, I said. Whitmore launched into a story about quarterly projections and market expansion. Melissa stood beside me, her hand still on my arm, her body angled slightly away from where Trevor stood watching. I let Whitmore talk. Let Melissa perform her role as the successful pharmaceutical rep with the supportive husband. Let the minutes tick by. At 8:47, I excused myself to the restroom. Jack followed 30 seconds later. She's rattled, he said, washing his hands at the sink beside me. Sent 3 texts in the last 10 minutes, all to the same number. Trevor's? Presumably. Jack dried his hands. The paralegal's in position. You still want to proceed at 9? I looked at my reflection in the mirror. Same face I'd seen that morning. Same face I'd had when I married Melissa 9 years ago. But the man behind it felt different. Hollowed out and refilled with something colder. Yes, I said. Proceed as planned. At 9:03 p.m., I watched from across the ballroom as a woman in a gray suit approached Melissa. The paralegal's voice didn't carry, but I saw Melissa's face drain of color as she accepted the manila envelope. Her hands shook as she opened it. Trevor moved toward her instinctively, then stopped himself, aware of the audience. I didn't stay to watch her read the petition. I walked out of the Sentinel, drove home, paid Jenna, and checked on Emma. She was asleep, her stuffed rabbit tucked under one arm, her face peaceful in the glow of her nightlight. The divorce took 11 months. Melissa hired an attorney who tried to paint me as controlling and vindictive. My documentation painted a different picture. The custody evaluator's report noted that Emma's schedule, medical records, and school communications all ran through me. That I knew her teacher's name, her best friend's parents, her piano instructor's policies. Melissa knew these things too, but couldn't produce evidence of consistent involvement. We settled 3 weeks before trial. I got primary custody, 67% of parenting time. Melissa got alternating weekends and 1 evening per week. We split the house equity. She kept her retirement account and the newer car. I kept mine and Emma's college fund that I'd been managing separately. The affair never came up in court. It didn't need to. Oregon's no-fault laws meant it was irrelevant to the legal proceedings, but it was relevant to me, to the boundary I'd drawn between the life I'd believed in and the reality I'd documented in spreadsheets and surveillance photos. Trevor and Melissa dated openly after the divorce finalized. They lasted 7 months before he took a job in Denver and moved without her. Melissa seemed genuinely surprised that a man who'd helped her betray one commitment might not be reliable for the next. Emma adjusted better than I'd feared, worse than I'd hoped. She cried the night I explained that Mom and I wouldn't be married anymore. She asked if it was her fault. I told her the truth. Sometimes adults make choices that hurt the people they love, and those choices have consequences. She's 10 now. Still plays piano, though she switched to a different instructor. Her choice, not mine. She's learning that mistakes don't require starting over from the beginning. That you can acknowledge an error and continue forward, building on what came before rather than erasing it. Melissa and I are civil. We coordinate schedules through an app, attend Emma's recitals from opposite sides of the auditorium, and split holidays according to the parenting plan. She's a decent mother when she's present. I've learned not to expect more than that. I haven't dated seriously. A few dinners, one relationship that lasted 3 months before fizzling out. Maybe I'm not ready. Maybe I'm too aware now of how people can maintain separate truths, how easy it is to perform intimacy while withholding honesty. Or maybe I've just learned that some things, once broken, teach you more in pieces than they ever did whole. Last week, Emma asked me why I never got angry when I talk about the divorce. She's old enough now to understand that her mother made choices, that I made choices in response, that the careful distance between her parents wasn't accidental. I told her that anger is expensive. It costs you time and energy and the ability to see clearly. I told her I chose documentation over confrontation because I wanted to protect what mattered most: her stability, our home, the truth. What I didn't tell her, what maybe she'll understand when she's older, I was angry, furiously, consumingly angry. But I learned that anger without discipline is just noise, that the most powerful response to betrayal isn't destruction, it's precision. I'm an accountant. I deal in numbers, patterns, evidence. When the ledger of my marriage stopped balancing, I didn't tear up the books. I audited them, found the discrepancies, documented the losses, and then I closed the account with the same methodical care I'd use for any failed investment. Some people might call that cold, calculating, unforgiving. I call it knowing the difference between what you can control and what you can't. I couldn't control Melissa's choices, couldn't make her honest or faithful or the person I'd believed she was, but I could control my response. I could choose to act from clarity rather than chaos. Emma practices piano in the next room, Debussy now, something flowing and complex. She doesn't stop when she makes mistakes anymore. She pauses, corrects, continues, building the piece measure by measure, accepting that perfection isn't the absence of errors, but the discipline to keep moving forward. I think about the man I was in that auditorium, watching her play while a detective's call shattered everything I thought I knew. How steady my hands were. How calm my voice. How I made a choice in that moment to be deliberate rather than destructive. The lesson, if there is one, isn't about marriage or betrayal or revenge. It's simpler than that. When life hands you chaos, you can match it with more chaos, or you can respond with structure. You can let emotion drive your decisions, or you can let evidence guide them. I chose evidence. I chose documentation. I chose to protect my daughter from the fallout of her mother's choices by being the parent who stayed present, stayed consistent, stayed true. And every night when I tuck Emma in, when she hugs me and says, "I love you, Dad," without hesitation or doubt, I know I chose correctly. Not because I won anything. Not because Melissa lost anything that mattered more than what she'd already thrown away. But because the man I see in the mirror now is someone I can respect. Someone who, when tested, chose to be deliberate and measured and protective of what actually mattered. The burner phone that started this, the detective's call that revealed the truth, sits in a drawer in my office. I keep it as a reminder. Not of betrayal, but of the moment I decided what kind of man I would be when everything fell apart. Turns out, I'm the kind who counts the cost, documents the damage, and builds something stable from the wreckage. That's enough.